Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the second session of the 2021 Leadership Summit. Today, Bonnie and I will be your presenters, and we're going to be focusing on effective networking and communication, which is so key. We want to make this interactive. There's only one slide that we're going to share at some point during this presentation. So we wanted to start off by talking about communication. And I know we have some communication experts in the room. We're very lucky to have Joanne in the room. She's a communication expert with all the writing she does. I know Sherilyn is another expert about communication with all the public relations that she does for a lot of people. So we just wanted to share how we wanted to ask you all, what are the ways that we communicate today? Just jump in and answer the questions. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Well, I think, not that I love it, but social media.
Social media, okay.
Not my favorite, but I'm just going to bring it out there because that seems to be a really big way of communicating for many.
Excellent. And Carrie, did you say something? I thought I heard something come from you.
I said the same exact thing. I said social media.
So there wasn't an echo. Good. Nope. Great minds think alike. I usually do GMTA and people are like, what's that? That's what it is. Great minds think alike.
I like it.
Anybody
Zoom?
else? Zoom. Okay, Zoom is another way people communicate on Zoom. Any other?
Still face-to-face, and also through handwritten notes and follow up with phone calls.
Oh, I like that.
That's a lot of what I do. That's what a lot of what I do, and that personal touch seems to stand out, especially with so much emphasis on social media and digital communications.
Yeah, excellent answers. I saw Jeremy doing something there that is something that's very popular today. He's texting. So texting is another way of communicating. Okay, anything else? Okay, so these are great answers. Now there are different ways. I'm gonna share the slide, and Bonnie, jump in anytime you want to jump in, but I'm just gonna share my screen and show you a slide about the key elements of, it was there when I started the meeting. I don't know how it disappeared. So I will just tell you what the key elements are. Okay, key elements to communication. 55% of communication is body language. I'm not sure if you all realize that. So when you're texting, that's why texting isn't always a clear way to communicate, right? You're missing body language. And people don't realize that. So what do we do to help that what's the best way to communicate? Either through Zoom, people can see you in person. Even on the phone, that can be a challenge without seeing body language. People could be saying one thing, but you don't get to see their reaction, so you don't know how they're really feeling, right? So that's 55% of communication. 35% of communication is voice. Again, you're missing that with texting, but a phone call, a Zoom call, in person, you get to see people's tone and inflections, and that makes a difference in the way they're communicating. And only 7% of communication is verbal, your words, right? So people don't realize that it's not about what you're saying, it's about how you're saying it. How are you delivering it? What do you look like when you're delivering that message? So that's why a lot of information gets lost in a text. Anyone text someone and have issues with, oh my God, they just totally misunderstood me. I didn't mean that at all. And feelings can be hurt and problems can come up with it. That's why texting is a great way to communicate, but it's not a complete way to communicate. So that's why there are issues with that.
Terese, I want to jump back to, when Preston brought up about personal contact.
Yes.
It's so very, very important. And, our world has changed so much, and it was changing prior to the pandemic, and it's even changed even further now. But when you speak to somebody in person, the body language is, if you're crossing your arms, it's a very defensive mood, and you want to be open to what someone is saying, and you try and actually mirror their positioning of themselves to make them feel comfortable so that you can hear what they're saying and listen. you have to pay attention to body language on what your thoughts are being received. And, texting is great, email is great, but, the one-on-one, we're social animals, and we need that one-to-one contact to really get our thoughts and feelings expressed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody have anything to add to all of that? Go ahead, Jerry. Oh my gosh, I see Vigiani. Mark. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying, and we got feedback with Jerry in the next room and all that, so I was trying to be somewhat respectful. But anyway, what I find with texting, especially in my field, is people text a lot of questions. And depending on how you read the question, there could be a different answer. And I could answer it. Even a friend of mine who I collaborate with, asked me a question, and I just had to pick up the phone and say, what's the context of the question? They'll just ask a specific thing, and you don't know what they're looking for as far as an answer. So instead of text, I don't even text back, what do you mean? I get on the phone and say, what are you looking for?
Right. Good. Excellent. You want to be clear. Patricia was saying that too, right? You say the word cat. Everybody has a different perception on what a cat is. So you want to be clear in your communication so that you can be understood. Sherilyn, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think it's just a good point. As you said, communication really is, it's nonverbal. And it's just how we show up with the smile and the minute that you're engaging. And just as Bonnie just said, it's like watching managers at times and how they're relating to their employees, and then their body language just says so much. And the person's reading that. We're all reading each other and watching when we're one-on-one, we watch it in the room, and even here, we're constantly, how much of that is going into our brain that is, you're not even realizing. So it's a very good point. And the arms crossed and the smile and the eyes, because you all know when somebody's really not listening. So it's a very, very good point and a great lead in to this.
Yes. Joanne.
The other point I want to make, if I interject here, this is Chris Ann, is when I was studying English communications in college, one of my professors said this statement, and I never forgot it, and that is, excellent communication is 75% listening and 25% speaking. So you're absorbing a lot more than you're actually conveying. But if you're not listening first, you're not able to reflect back what they're trying to get at. And what Mark just said about the questions, when somebody has a question and they text it to you, I get this too, because with different orders or different events that people want to plan, if they're in front of me, I'm able to also glean something from their personality. And that's nonverbal. But by me listening, I'm taking that in, and that is coloring my answers to them. And even now with the virus, people are meeting one-on-one. They are gathering a lot more, but people are doing one-on-one meetings because they do want that face-to-face interaction.
Absolutely. Excellent. I actually was able to call my slide up, so I'm just going to share it for like 30 seconds just so you could see what it's a pie chart. And just so you can see it, it's Dr. Albert Mehrabian's communication role, elements of personal communication. So there it is, 7% spoken words, 35% tone of voice, 55% body language. Okay. All right. All right. So Bonnie, you want to continue on?
I just want to defend texting for a second. With new people coming into the professional world, just a quick story. I was reaching out to a new prospect as far as leaving voicemail, email, and getting no response. And I decided to text him, and he called me right back. And I said to the young man, he was probably in his early 30s, and I said, "You responded to my text." He said, "Well, I didn't recognize your phone number or your email address, but if you text me, I'll respond." And I was like, wow, that's the first time I ever had that happen. So, I can't fault texting either.
I actually agree with that, Bonnie. I find that you get a hold of people faster through a text than an email, because I know I get inundated with emails and sometimes it takes me a while to get through it all and respond to everything. It takes longer. It's easier to send a quick text, but if it's going to take me longer than a minute, then I'm going to pick up the phone. Yeah. Any other comments?
Part of it too is recognizing who you are communicating with.
Yeah.
There's people who will only text, and you have to sort of manage that and accept it. I have a friend of mine, he only communicates through Facebook Messenger. It blows me away. I still can't wrap my head around that. I'm actually now getting personal communications through now even LinkedIn professionally. Not even going to an email. I would think somebody would look you up, Google you, whatever, find your email address on your website. But on LinkedIn, you've already connected with the profile and, getting private messages that way. Mm-hmm. So you have to really manage your communication based on who you're dealing with. Right. So it might be outside your comfort zone, but if it's the only way you're going to be able to work with this person, you got to be able to sort of suck it up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sherilyn?
Just to piggyback on that, what's crazy nowadays, though, look at all the ways of communication, because I know there's some on this call too, that there's Snapchat, and there's other things that I don't know that spins around our, different ways or avenues of communicating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that you have to be very mindful. Sometimes you have to pick up that phone and have the conversation, because what needs to be communicated to the other party is not going to work through an email or even a Zoom call. Sometimes you really just have, because you have to reach out in person and have that hard conversation. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to work in email or a text.
Right.
Agreed.
I like Zoom though, because it adds the element of the visual. The phone call, you're missing that visual element. So I think I'm getting spoiled by Zoom. I tell everybody, you want to call me? Great, let's hop on a Zoom call. Go ahead, Joanne. Oh, audio.
I don't have the electronic raise hand, so sorry about that. One thing that I learned the hard way, and I was a bit embarrassed when I realized this whole bombardment of a million different ways to reach out to people. I tend to be a night owl, so I will very often, back in the day, I would reply to emails and stuff in ridiculous hours of the night, knowing that okay, whoever gets it will get it the next day. But now with everyone having their cell phones on all the time, I turned mine off after a certain hour of the night, and I just assumed other people did that too. So I would send emails or I would reply to a text, and then finally someone very kindly, I forget who it was a while back, said their phone was pinging in the middle of the night with my replies because they didn't have it silenced, and I was just assuming, well, their phone will be off until the morning. So something to bear in mind in case it didn't dawn on any of the rest of you the way it didn't dawn on me. So now I do try to remember, okay, only answer during business hours, or delay an email.
Too. There's the geography component of that too, because to your point, my older brother lives in Hawaii. That's 6 hours behind. It's 7 o'clock in the morning, and I want to just get some things off. And just like you said, when they wake up, they'll get it and they'll respond. But he's like, bro, it's 1 o'clock in the morning right now. You are blowing up my phone. Wait a few hours.
I silence my phone between midnight and 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. just so that it'll all be there in the morning when I can respond. So I don't have to hear it. Bonnie,
one point.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Go.
This is Chrisanne. I just wanted to make another point about following up and text messages, etc. One thing that I'm seeing with some of the younger people around me, with staff and even some of our colleagues, while they're accustomed to digital because that was always what they did, it's what they learned and it's what they grew up into, their brevity is part of their habits. But one thing that they're missing is the importance of follow-up communication. You know, if they just will send a text, let's say if you're closing a transaction, I don't mean something major that needs contractual information, but if you're trying to do the courtesy close, some people you get very cryptic answers. And for those of us who understand the power, if you will, of more formalized closures and that relationship building, we put more time into that, which means a phone call, which means going, if we can, to the place of their business just to say thank you, to give them something. The art of that helps build business and it helps produce longevity. That is something that I think is missing in communication. And I know that I've had some younger staff people come to me and ask me to help them to learn that. So that is a teachable skill, but it's not something that's a trained skill necessarily right now in the digital age we're living in.
Thank you, Chrisanne.
Can I piggyback on Chrisanne for a second?
Yes,
Part
I
of
want to
that.
go to Ryan because he's had his hand up for a while. Sorry, Ryan.
Right, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You want to piggyback?
No, it's very quick. What Chrisanne is saying is absolutely true, but also there's no sense of urgency. And people have to understand that when you send out an email, there is a certain sense of urgency. And I see it in my own industry. Somebody will send an email and all of a sudden it's okay. I send an email and they figure their job's done. There's no follow-up on it. And in my industry, there has to be follow-up. And people have to understand if you get an email, that person's expecting an answer and it should be responded to in a timely fashion. And it's all a part of that communication. I'm sorry, go Ryan.
My question is real quick. I sent an email this week and it was to somebody that's like volunteering for me and like a freelancer. And like I thought the email came off wrong, but it wasn't somebody that I could call and be like, hey, like I didn't mean it that way. Like, do you just I kind of just waited and nothing happened, so it wasn't bad. But like when that happens in a professional setting, like what do you recommend doing? Do you send a follow-up email like, hey, I didn't mean to, this is what I meant, or like?
So my first question to you, Ryan, is what makes you think that it was received poorly?
I think I just worded it the wrong way.
But what was the reaction of the receiver to make you think that you did something wrong?
There was nothing, but it was probably just me thinking like, oh, if I read that, I would think that.
Okay. So they didn't respond back. Is that what made you?
No, they responded, but
Oh.
like I was just like I felt bad because I felt like I worded it in a way I shouldn't have.
Okay. I would there's nothing wrong with sending a clarification email and saying, I just want to make myself clear just in case you misunderstood something. That's what I would do. Anybody else have a recommendation?
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's better to nip it in the bud and clarify yourself than for it to be received not the way you intended, and then having to play damage control after the fact.
Yeah.
I mean, just in general in life, if something pops in your head, I always say, listen to the person inside your head. If you got that feeling, then act on it and don't wait.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's also a common practice of mine. I remove the email address before I am 100% ready to send that message. And I will reread it, especially if it's something that is, requires a bit of an in-depth explanation. And I won't enter the email address until I'm certain that this is going out right now.
Such a good point, Jeremy. All of the points are great, but that's really key, I think, at times.
Excellent. Anything else? Ryan, did we answer your question?
Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you.
That was a good one. Anybody else? I know that they're going to be calling us back into the room shortly. Bonnie, do you want to add anything before we leave?
Did you want to touch on a little bit on, being a speaker and volunteering? I mean, these are all part of, communication and networking and becoming involved in life. So,
yeah. So how many people have been speakers here Anybody talk to an audience? Okay, so we have some experienced speakers here. So we always recommend that when you're picking a topic, make sure it's going to be beneficial and relevant to your audience, and bring it back around. Like when we bring in speakers to the park, I always say, make sure it's something of value to your audience, and then loop it back around to your business. Because if you're pushing your business, everyone's going to think you don't care about them. It's all about you. And you don't want to give that impression, because you're going to lose people that way. So, so make sure you give them something of value, and volunteer. Volunteering is a great way to get you connected to people, and to get people to know you, like you, and trust you, so that business can be conducted. So I see we're getting called back into the room. We have a few more seconds. Anybody want to add anything else before we jump back?
I just want to say thank you. I like it. I like how you did this. I like I love the graph. That's fabulous, because it's so visual, and it really makes you stop and think. So thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Terese. It was excellent.
Oh, thank you. You're very, very
Thank you.
welcome.
And I think this was very relatable to everyone. You could tell by how much everyone had to add to it, and
Yes,
related to what you were saying.
Thank you for participating. We love the interaction. It was great. See you in the main room.